Bombshell alert in Minnesota, Viking Nation. The storm starts right now with a revelation no one saw coming, because what's about to unfold over the next few minutes will shake the foundations of U.S. Bank Stadium and send shockwaves through the entire NFC. A star receiver duo is preparing to feast on a vulnerable secondary. A quarterback mystery hangs in the balance with crucial clues pointing in unexpected directions. A young signal caller admits something deeply concerning about his lingering ankle injury that could derail everything. A massive mismatch looms where the Vikings offense holds a game-changing advantage, and a revenge game scenario is brewing as a veteran quarterback faces ghosts from his past in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. Each of these shocks could redefine the future of this team as the defending Super Bowl champions roll into town riding a two-game losing streak and looking more beatable than anyone expected. The Eagles may wear crowns, but this Sunday those crowns will be tested like never before, and if you think you know what's coming, think again, because the revelations I'm about to drop will flip your entire understanding of this Week 7 clash upside down. Stay locked in Viking Nation, because what comes next is pure chaos, pure strategy, and pure fire. And if you bleed purple and gold more than you hate the Packers, smash that subscribe button right now, because you're not ready for what's about to hit. This is the moment where legends are made, where underdogs rise, and where championship dreams either come alive or die in the frozen tundra of Minneapolis. And trust me when I say every single second of this breakdown will arm you with the knowledge you need to understand exactly how the Vikings are going to dismantle the defending champs piece by piece, play drive by drive, until there's nothing left but eagle feathers scattered across the turf. But hold on, because before we dive into the quarterback drama and the revenge narratives, we need to talk about the blueprint for victory, the three pillars that will determine whether the Vikings send the Eagles to their third straight loss or get trampled by the defending champs. This isn't just another game, this is a statement game, and if Minnesota wants to prove they belong in the conversation with the NFC elite, they need to execute three critical keys with absolute precision. The first revelation cuts straight to the heart of Philadelphia's identity, and it's simple yet devastating. The Vikings must slow down Saquon Barkley and force Jalen Hurts to throw the football. Now listen closely, because this is where the entire game could be won or lost in the trenches. Philadelphia's offense ranks just 21st in EPA per play this season. A dramatic fall from grace, and a massive reason for that collapse is Barkley's struggles on the ground. Last year the man was unstoppable. 2,000 rushing yards, Offensive Player of the Year honors, averaging 5.8 yards per carry and 125.3 rushing yards per game, looking like a freight train with afterburners. But 6 weeks into the season, he's averaging just 3.4 yards per carry and 50 to rushing yards per game. A catastrophic drop-off that has left Eagles fans scratching their heads and defensive coordinators licking their chops. Here's the problem for Minnesota though. The Vikings defense leads the league in opponent EPA per play against the pass, suffocating quarterbacks with Brian Flores' aggressive zone blitz schemes, but they rank just 25th against the run. Bijan Robinson, Kenneth Gainwell, and Quinton Judkins have run all over this defense like it was a high school JV squad, and you better believe the Eagles watched that film and are salivating at the chance to get Barkley loose for explosive home run plays. But here's the twist. The Vikings are getting reinforcements at the perfect time. Number 1 linebacker Blake Cashman is expected to return after missing the last 4 games with a hamstring injury, and he's an absolute game changer in run defense. The kind of sideline missile who plugs gaps and sets the tone. The Vikings could also get outside linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel back from a neck injury, though that's less certain, but either way the message is clear. Defensive tackles Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave need to dominate the line of scrimmage and blow up rushing lanes before Barkley ever sees daylight. If the Vikings can wall off the run and force Hurts into obvious passing situations, that's when Flores' defense becomes a nightmare. Hurts is capable of making elite throws, no doubt, but since the start of last season, Pro Football Focus has charted him with 29 big-time throws and 23 turnover-worthy plays. That's a razor-thin margin for error. He threw a crucial interception last week against the Giants, his first of the season, and he struggled to sync up with number 1 receiver A.J. Brown holding onto the ball for an average of 3.12 seconds to throw 4th highest in the league, which leads to sacks, 18 of them this season, tied for 3rd most. Translation: If the Vikings shut down Barkley, Hurts becomes a sitting duck and Flores will send the heat from every angle imaginable. Now let's flip to the offensive side of the ball, because this is where things get absolutely electric for Minnesota. The second key to victory is simple but devastating: exploit a vulnerable secondary. Philadelphia's #1 cornerback Quinion Mitchell is questionable to play this week due to a hamstring injury, and if he can't go, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison would be lining up across from outside corners Adoree Jackson and Kelly Riegel, both of whom have sub-50 PFF coverage grades this season. Let that sink in for a second. Two of the most elite route runners in the NFL going up against cornerbacks who can barely stay in phase. And it gets worse for Philly. Eagles starting safeties Reed Blankenship and Andrew Mukuba, a second-round rookie, also have sub-50 coverage grades. The only bright spot in that secondary is Cooper DeJean, but he primarily lines up in the slot, which means Jefferson and Addison will feast on the outside all game long. Even if Mitchell does play, the Vikings will like their chances with Jefferson going toe-to-toe with him, while Addison torches Jackson or Ringo on the other side. Whether it's Carson Wentz or J.J. McCarthy under center, we'll get to that quarterback mystery. In just a moment, there will be massive opportunities downfield against an Eagles pass rush that doesn't boast much firepower outside of Yalen Carter and Moro Oyomo in the middle. Offensively, the Vikings will also look to establish the ground game with Jordan Mason, who could have success against an Eagles run defense that struggled mightily against Cam Scatterbo last time out and hasn't been dominant this year. Carter will be back after missing that Giants game, so the Vikings need to be aware of his presence at all times, but the path to victory is clear. Feed Jefferson and Addison, attack the weak links in coverage, and watch the fireworks. The third and final key is the most obvious yet the most critical: limit negative plays on offense. This applies to every team in every game, but it's absolutely essential for Minnesota, because when they haven't hurt themselves with self-inflicted wounds, they move the ball effectively and put points on the board. But they've been plagued all year by sacks, turnovers, and penalties that kill drives and hand momentum to the opponent. Kevin O'Connell made this a point of major emphasis over the bye week, and rightfully so. The Vikings rank second in the league in penalties with 8.8 per game, and a huge chunk of those are pre-snap procedural infractions like false starts and illegal motions. Whether it's Wentz or McCarthy, the quarterback needs to stop taking so many sacks, which have been drive killers all season long, and they have to protect the football. Remember those two running back fumbles they were lucky to overcome against the Browns? That kind of sloppiness will get you destroyed. Against a championship caliber team, limit Barkley, feed Jefferson and Addison, and avoid mistakes. Do those three things and the Vikings will win this game. Of course, that's a lot easier said than done, but if you believe in this team more than you hate the Eagles, drop a comment right now, because the next story is about to blow your mind. And just when fans thought it couldn't get crazier, here comes the next bombshell: the quarterback mystery that has Vikings Nation on the edge of their seats. Refreshing injury reports every hour and dissecting every word that comes out of Kevin O'Connell's mouth, because the head coach has been coy, hasn't he? He's been playing poker with the media all week, refusing to commit to a starter, dropping hints here and there, but never fully revealing his hand. The big question entering Week 7 is simple: will J.J. McCarthy be healthy enough to reclaim his starting job, or will Carson Wentz get his fourth consecutive start? And while O'Connell has been tight-lipped, there are crucial clues hidden in plain sight that tell us exactly what's about to happen. In Viking Nation, you need to pay attention, because these breadcrumbs lead to one inescapable conclusion. Let's start with the most obvious piece of evidence: the Vikings released Desmond Ridder. Now, that might not seem like a big deal on the surface, but think about the timing and the implications. Ridder was brought in specifically to provide quarterback depth, while McCarthy was dealing with his ankle injury. He was insurance, playing and simple a safety net in case things went sideways. The fact that Minnesota let him walk heading into a massive game against the defending Super Bowl champions tells you everything you need to know. They believe they have enough healthy quarterbacks to get through this game. If McCarthy was ruled out completely and Wentz was the only viable option, don't you think the Vikings would want to keep a third quarterback around just in case? Especially after what happened in London when Max Brosmer had to step in as an emergency quarterback when Wentz got banged up. That was a terrifying moment for the coaching staff, having only two true passers active and watching one of them lip off the field. So why would they risk that again unless they were confident McCarthy would be available in some capacity? Here's where it gets even more interesting. McCarthy was never placed on injured reserve. That's a massive clue that gets overlooked in all the noise. When a team puts a player on IR, it means they expect him to miss at least for games. But the Vikings chose not to go that route with McCarthy, even though he's already missed 3 consecutive games. Why? Because the plan all along was to have him back by week 7 at the latest. McCarthy sat out week 3, week 4, and week 5, and now coming out of the bye week in week 6. The logical timeline points to his return in week 7 against the Eagles. Everything lines up perfectly if you connect the dots. The Vikings haven't made any moves to sign another quarterback. They released Ritter, and they're rolling into a primetime showdown against Philly. With just 3 signal callers on the roster, Wentz, McCarthy, and Brosmer. That suggests all 3 will be active on game day, which means McCarthy has to be healthy enough to at least dress even if he's not starting. Now here's the million-dollar question. Will McCarthy start, or will he be a backup/emergency option? The smart money based on O'Connell's comments and the injury timeline is that Wentz gets the start, but McCarthy will be active as the number 2 ready to go if needed. That gives Minnesota the flexibility to ease McCarthy back into action without throwing him into the fire right away, especially against a defensive front led by Jalen Carter that can wreak havoc on a quarterback with limited mobility. But make no mistake, Viking Nation, McCarthy's return is imminent, and when he does get back on the field fully healthy, this offense is going to explode to a whole new level. For now, though, all eyes are on Wentz and whether he can continue his solid play as the bridge quarterback. In 3 starts, Wentz has gone 2-1 with a completion percentage of 69%, 759 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Those are more than respectable numbers, and he's done it while dealing with his own shoulder injury suffered in the win over Cleveland. Meanwhile, McCarthy in his 2 starts went 1-1 with a 58.5 completion percentage, 301 yards to touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. The raw numbers don't tell the whole story though, because McCarthy showed flashes of brilliance and had some real moments of growth that the coaching staff loved. The bottom line is this: expect 3 quarterbacks to be active on Sunday, expect Wentz to start, expect McCarthy to be ready as the backup, and expect the Vikings to lean heavily on their playmakers like Jefferson, Addison, and Mason to take pressure off whoever is under center. The quarterback situation might be murky, but the talent around the position is crystal clear, and that's what will carry Minnesota to victory. If you think Wentz is going to light up his old team, hit the like button right now, because the next revelation will make you believe even more. But that's not the only fire burning inside this franchise, because the next revelation is even more explosive, and it comes straight from the mouth of the young quarterback himself. J.J. McCarthy made an admission this week that sent shockwaves through Vikings Nation and raised serious questions about his availability for Sunday's clash with the Eagles. When asked about his ankle injury, McCarthy didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't try to play tough guy. He simply told the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts. The 22-year-old signal caller admitted that his ankle is not 100% healthy, and that the high ankle sprain he suffered in week 2 has been, quote, very frustrating, unquote. Those are not the words you want to hear from your franchise quarterback heading into a pivotal divisional matchup against the defending champions. McCarthy went on to say, "We have to be smart here and understand that there's a lot at stake. And ultimately, I'm just going to do what I'm told and try to get better as fast as possible." That level of maturity and self-awareness is admirable. It shows he's not willing to risk his long-term health or the team's success just to play hero ball. But it also confirms what many of us suspected: McCarthy is still not ready to be the full-time starter. Kevin O'Connell has been very vocal throughout McCarthy's recovery about the importance of lower body mechanics for a quarterback, especially one whose mobility and ability to extend plays outside the pocket is such a huge part of his skill set. A healthy ankle isn't just about avoiding pain, it's about having the explosion and balance needed to drive throws downfield, to scramble away from pressure, to plant and pivot on routes and play action fakes. Without that foundation, everything falls apart. O'Connell said it best when he described McCarthy as a precise passer who thrives when he's playing with ideal base balance and body position. When he's able to do that, you'll see the ball come out with tight spirals and go exactly where he wants it to go. But when the ankle isn't right, when the mechanics are compromised, you get inconsistent throws. You get hesitation. You get a quarterback who's thinking about his body instead of reading the defense. That's not a recipe for success, especially against an Eagles defense coordinated by Vic Fangio. who will throw exotic looks and disguise coverages at you all game long. According to reports from Minnesota Star Tribune writer Chip Scoggins, the Vikings are not going to send McCarthy back onto the field until there is 100% certainty that he has no physical limitations, and the reason is simple. Mobility is a huge part of McCarthy's game, and if he can't move the way he needs to move, he's not the same player. Scoggins also noted that the coaching staff spent the bye week making sure McCarthy could participate in full speed drills and test the ankle under game-like conditions, but even after all that work, McCarthy still isn't where he needs to be. Meanwhile, Carson Wentz, who suffered a non-throwing shoulder injury during the win over Cleveland, participated fully in Wednesday's practice and showed no signs of limitations. That's a huge development because it means Wentz is the safest and most reliable option for Sunday's game, even if he's not the long-term answer. The Vikings are in a tough spot here. They want to see McCarthy develop and get reps because he's the future of the franchise, but they also can't afford to throw him out there hobble and risk further injury or a poor performance that could shake his confidence. So what's the plan? All signs point to Wentz starting with McCarthy active as the emergency backup, a role he can handle without putting too much strain on the ankle. It's a smart, measured approach that protects the young quarterback while still giving the Vikings a legitimate chance to win. But here's the kicker, Viking Nation. When McCarthy does eventually return to full health and reclaims the starting job, watch out, because this kid has all the tools to be special. His arm talent, his football IQ, his poise under pressure are all elite level traits. And once he's operating at 100% with full mobility and confidence, this offense will be unstoppable. For now, though, patience is the name of the game, and if that means riding with Wentz for one more week, so be it. If you're praying for McCarthy's full recovery and a speedy return, drop a like and comment right now, because what's coming next is the mismatch that will decide this game. And listen closely, because the next chapter is the kind of news that divides a fan base right down the middle, but it's also the one thing that should give every Vikings fan hope heading into Sunday. The Minnesota Vikings offense has a fundamental advantage against the Philadelphia Eagles, and if Kevin O'Connell can exploit it the way we all know he can, this game will turn into a track meet and the Eagles secondary will be left in the dust. Let me paint you a picture of just how bad things are for Philadelphia's pass defense right now, because it's uglier than anyone wants to admit. The matchup between the Vikings receiving duo of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison against the Eagles cornerback group is not just a mismatch, it's a massacre waiting to happen. Philadelphia's number one corner, Quinion Mitchell, is dealing with a hamstring injury and is officially questionable for Sunday. If he can't play, or even if he's limited, the Vikings will be licking their chops. But here's the thing, even if Mitchell does suit up, the corners playing opposite him are straight up liabilities. Adoree Jackson has been targeted 25 times this season and has allowed 16 receptions for 190 yards and committed one penalty. His PFF coverage grade is a dismal 46.2. Kelly Ringo has been targeted 13 times, allowed 8 receptions for 125 yards and racked up 3 penalties with a PFF coverage grade of 48.8. Jacorian Bennett might be the worst of the bunch. 9 targets, 6 receptions, 50 yards, 1 penalty, and a coverage grade of 29.4. These are not NFL starting caliber corners. These are guys who would struggle in practice squad tryouts, and the Vikings are about to expose them in front of a national audience. But wait, it gets even worse for Philly. The safety play has been just as bad. Reed Blankenship and Andrew Mukuba, a second-round rookie, are both grading out below 50 in coverage according to PFF, which means the deep middle of the field is wide open for explosive plays. The only competent coverage player the Eagles have is Cooper DeJean, who primarily plays the slot. He's been excellent in that role, but the problem is he can't be everywhere at once. And when Jefferson and Addison are running vertical routes on the outside, DeJean is stuck in the middle watching helplessly. Now let's talk about what makes this matchup so lethal for Minnesota. Jefferson and Addison are 2 of the best route runners in the entire league. They create separation with precision footwork, head fakes, and elite body control. They don't need to rely on pure speed to beat defenders. They'll simply run them in circles with double move stutters and comeback routes. Against corners like Ringo, who moves like an old Cadillac and can't flip his hips to save his life, Jefferson will have a field day. Imagine Jefferson running a simple sluggo route, faking the slant, getting Ringo to bite, then exploding vertically for a 40-yard bomb. Or picture Addison running a deep post against Jackson. using his quickness to create the steps of separation and hauling in a touchdown over the top. These are the kinds of plays that will be available all game long, and O'Connell is going to dial them up early and often. The beauty of having two elite receivers is that defenses can't cheat coverage to one side. If the Eagles roll a safety over the top to help on Jefferson, that leaves Addison in single coverage, which is basically a guaranteed completion. And if they try to play the high safeties to take away the deep ball, that opens up the intermediate crossing routes and the run game with Jordan Mason. It's a pick-your-poison situation, and no matter what Vic Fangio dials up, the Vikings will have an answer. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Fangio is a brilliant defensive mind. He's one of the godfathers of modern zone coverage schemes, and Kevin O'Connell knows it better than anyone, because he actually hired Fangio's longtime protege at Donatel to run the same system in Minnesota a couple years ago. That experiment didn't work out, but it gave O'Connell a front row seat to how Fangio structures his coverages and where the weaknesses are. Fangio likes to disguise his looks pre-snap, showing one coverage and rotating into another post-snap. He'll blitz more than most of his disciples do, and he relies on his corners to play tight man cover, age on the outside while the safeties patrol the deep zones. The problem is when your corners can't cover and your safeties can't make plays, the entire system falls apart, and that's exactly what's happening in Philadelphia right now. The Vikings will attack with a variety of concepts, for verticals to stress the safeties deep, levels routes to create natural picks in zone coverage, and quick game screens and slants to neutralize the pass rush, whoever is playing quarterback for Minnesota. Whether it's Wentz or McCarthy will have clean, easy throws available because the separation will be there. And let's not forget about the tight end and running back. T.J. Hawkinson, if healthy, will be another weapon over the middle, and Mason can catch passes out of the backfield to keep the chains moving. This is a dream matchup for the Vikings offense, and if they execute even half of their game plan, they'll put up 30-plus points. The Eagles are coming off back-to-back losses, and their confidence is shaken. The Vikings need to jump on them early, hit them with big plays, and never let them breathe. If you believe Jefferson is about to go off for 150 yards and a touchdown smash, that subscribe button right now, because the final story is the one that will make you believe. This is destiny. And if this week felt like an earthquake, what's coming next could be the aftershock. That topples the whole season, because we need to talk about the elephant in the room. The narrative that's been building all week, the storyline that has everyone in the football world buzzing. Carson Wentz is facing his former team, and whether he admits it or not, this game means everything. The stage is set in Minneapolis. The Philadelphia Eagles are heading to the Midwest. It's time for Wentz to shine. Not in February of 2018, when he was supposed to lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl in this very stadium before a torn ACL stole his moment, but right here, right now, in Week 7 of the 2025 season. Let's rewind the clock for a moment and remember just how magical Wentz's rise was in Philadelphia. He was the number 2 overall pick in 2016, a kid from North Dakota with a rocket arm and unlimited potential. By his second season, he had transformed into an MVP candidate, leading the Eagles to an 11 and to record before suffering that devastating knee injury in December. The Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl that year, but it wasn't Wentz hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. It was his backup Nick Foles who became a legend while Wentz watched from the sidelines. That has to sting even all these years later. Foles got the statue outside Lincoln Financial Field. Foles got the parade down Broad Street. Foles got the glory while Wentz got the what-ifs. And things only got worse from there. Wentz struggled to recapture his 2017 magic, dealing with injuries, inconsistent play, and eventually a full-blown quarterback controversy when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. By 2020, the relationship between Wentz and Philadelphia was beyond repair, and he requested a trade. The Eagles shipped him to Indianapolis, where he had a mediocre one-year stint, then to Washington, where things went even more sideways, than the backup roles with the Rams and Chiefs, before finally landing in Minnesota. It's been a long, strange trip for Wentz, a fall from grace that seemed unthinkable just a few years ago. But here he is getting one more shot to prove he still belongs, and it just so happens to be against the team that broke his heart. Now, Wentz will tell you this is just another game. He'll say he's moved on, that there's no bad blood, that he's focused solely on helping the Vikings win, and to his credit, he probably believes that on some level. But you can't tell me there isn't a part of him deep down that wants to march into US Bank Stadium and light up the Eagles' defense. to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and remind everyone in Philadelphia of what they gave up. The circumstances make it even more cinematic. The Eagles are reeling after consecutive losses to division rivals. Their confidence is shaken. Their secondary is banged up and their offense can't get out of its own way. Meanwhile, Wentz has been solid in his 3 starts for Minnesota, 2 wins and 1 loss with 5 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. He's protected the ball, he's made timely throws, and he's earned the respect of his teammates and coaches. This is his chance to be the hero, to write a redemption story that nobody saw coming, to add a footnote to his legacy that says he wasn't done yet. And here's the beautiful irony of it all. The Vikings are the team Wentz grew up rooting for as a kid in North Dakota. This is his childhood team playing in the stadium where he was supposed to win a Super Bowl with the Eagles. It's like the universe has been setting this up for years, waiting for the perfect moment to bring everything full circle. So what happens on Sunday? Does Wentz rise to the occasion and deliver a performance for the ages, or does the pressure get to him and the ghost of his past come back to haunt him? My money is on Wentz balling out. He's got Jefferson and Addison to throw to. He's got a creative play caller in O'Connell who will scheme guys open, and he's going up against a secondary that couldn't cover a Pop Warner team right now. The Vikings will establish the run early with Mason, which will set up play action deep shots down the field. Wentz will have time to throw because the Eagles' pass rush outside Jalen Carter is non-existent, and when he does let it rip, Jefferson will be there to make plays. I'm predicting Wentz throws for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns with 0 interceptions, and the Vikings win 31-24 in a game that's closer than the final score indicates. But more than the stats, more than the result, this game will be about Wentz proving to himself and to the world that he's still got it, that the doubters were wrong, that he's not washed, that he can still compete at the highest level. And when the final whistle blows and the Vikings celebrate a massive victory over the defending champs, Wentz will walk off that field with his head held high, knowing he exercised his demons and helped his team take a giant step toward the playoffs. This is the kind of story that makes football the greatest sport on earth. The drama, the redemption, the poetic justice of it all. So if you believe in Wentz, if you believe in this Vikings team, if you believe that Sunday is going to be the day everything comes together, then do 3 things right now. Hit that like button to show your support. Drop a comment telling me your score prediction, and most importantly, smash that subscribe button, because this is only the beginning. The Vikings are building something special this season, and you don't want to miss a single moment of the journey. Think this was wild? Just wait until the rivals make their counter move, because that war is only beginning. And listen closely, the next 72 hours might be the most decisive in this franchise's history, so stay tuned, Viking Nation, because the best is yet to come, and when it does, you'll want to be right here with us riding this wave all the way to February. Skol Vikings, let's go get this win and remind the world that purple and gold is the color of champions.